We recently left our Tesla Model Y alone in the wilderness for 6 days with no access to a charger, food, shelter, or clean water. Actually, it was just airport parking. But I wanted to share with you all what we experienced when we went away on vacation and returned back to the airport to find our Tesla Model Y and the current state of charge. In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what we did to try to conserve as much charge as possible before we left, and what we arrived home to is not what we expected. With the holiday season coming up, many of us want to travel to visit friends or family, maybe take that fall vacation much like we did. And for those of us that are Tesla drivers, we are seriously concerned about our state of charge when we return back home. I mean, we're leaving our vehicle disconnected from any type of charging source in an airport. What is the situation going to be like when we get back? Is there going to be enough juice to get us home? Can we make it to a supercharger? Is there enough juice to even get out of airport parking? I mean, there's a lot of things you have to think about, especially when you own these EVs. So on our recent trip to Antigua Guatemala, which is beautiful by the way, these same thoughts entered into our minds, and we took precautions to make sure that we could conserve the battery as much as possible so that when we arrived back home around midnight, which actually ended up being closer to 1 a.m. because of flight delays, that we would actually have enough charge in the car to get us at least to the supercharging station, which was over 20 minutes away from the airport. Now, we started out from Boondock HQ with 100% charge, which made the most sense because that gave us the best possible state of charge for when we arrived at the airport, hopefully mitigating the battery drain that we would experience over those 6 days while we were gone, and giving us enough juice to make it back to Boondock HQ, which is over an hour and a half away from our local airport. Now, there are two settings that you need to adjust to make sure that you conserve the battery power as much as possible in your Tesla. First setting I want to talk about is called cabin overheat protection. Now, this is a setting that was introduced via a software update by Tesla, and basically it attempts to cool down the cabin using the climate control if the cabin temperature exceeds 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, there are multiple settings within cabin overheat protection, one being the air conditioning, the other being fan only. One operates the air conditioning, allowing that to come on and cool down the cabin more quickly. The other just operates the blower motor, just trying to circulate the air and cool down the cabin that way. Now, because we wanted to conserve as much battery as possible, we disabled temporarily this cabin overheat protection. Also, because it's the fall season, the temperatures are cooler and we rarely see interior temperatures higher than maybe 90 degrees. Now, climate control is definitely a significant drain on your battery when the vehicle is in use, so it would be as well when the vehicle is just sitting there and you've got cabin overheat protection on and the air conditioning is kicking on to try to cool down the cabin. It's really not necessary, especially in our case. So we disabled that temporarily while we were on our trip. Now, the second setting I want to mention is Sentry Mode, and I know that this is controversial because many people say when you leave your Tesla alone, you need to have Sentry Mode on, but there were several factors that we considered personally that led us to our decision for disabling Sentry Mode while we were at the airport. Sentry Mode uses between 250 and 300 watts of energy per hour, which is roughly equating to about a mile of range loss per hour. Over a 24-hour period, that's 24 miles. Over 6 days, that's nearly 150 miles of range. That's a lot of range loss just to have Sentry Mode turned on. Sentry Mode will run until the battery reaches 20%, leaving you enough distance to at least make it to a charger. But in our case, we were arriving after a long flight around midnight, and we just wanted to get back home. We wanted to give ourselves the best possible chance of arriving to the Model Y with enough state of charge to make it back the hour-and-a-half drive to our house and avoid having to stop at 1 a.m. at a supercharger location. Our belief was that since we were parked in a gated, secured, and patrolled airport parking lot, there was really no thief out there that wanted to pay $20 just to come in and harass our Tesla Model Y. So we decided to turn Sentry Mode off, saving that 24 miles of range loss per day, which gave us the best possible chance of returning back to the Model Y with enough state of charge to make it the hour-and-a-half drive back to Boondock HQ. Sentry Mode can be enabled from anywhere in the world via your Tesla mobile app on your cell phone, even if you turned it off through the car. That's okay. So if we changed our minds later on and we said, no, feel really uncomfortable, we want to put Sentry Mode on, it would be as simple as going into the app and toggling that option back on. But we didn't, and instead enjoyed our vacation time. Now, we thoroughly enjoyed our time in Antigua, Guatemala, not worrying about the Tesla at all. It's a beautiful country. The people are so nice. The food was amazing. We actually took a fantastic coffee tour. Shout out to Baudillo Rivera of Rivera coffee. He's doing amazing things with his coffee. I'll leave a link to his Facebook page down in the description below. You can check him out. And if you're in Antigua, Guatemala, I highly recommend you taking a tour from Baudillo. It's very eye-opening about the amount of work these coffee farmers actually put into their product, and the end result is amazing. Now, after spending those 6 lovely days in Antigua, we returned home around 12:30 a.m. to our Tesla Model Y in the airport parking lot. Now remember, we turned off cabin overheat protection and Sentry Mode, so we'd done everything possible to conserve as much battery power in this vehicle as we could so that it had a high state of charge when we returned. Well, when we hopped back in the car, we were so surprised to find that the car had actually gained 1% state of charge from when we left it. Yes, when we left, it was at 74%. When we arrived back, we arrived to a charge of 75%, allowing us to safely make it home the hour and a half back to Boondock HQ without having to stop at a supercharger, without having to get somebody to tow us because our battery was at 0%. Would that have been the case with cabin overheat protection and Sentry Mode on? I do not know. We inspected the vehicle when we arrived back. There was no damage that we could see. We felt validated in our decision to turn Sentry Mode off. And because of that, we had the juice to get back to Boondock HQ without having to stop at a supercharger, which was fantastic. If you like to travel, use these 2 adjustments that you can make to give you the best possible state of charge when you arrive back to your Tesla after your nice vacation or visit with your family. If you enjoyed this video, then check out our first ever road trip in our Tesla Model Y. It was not what we expected. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.